Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
Hi, I'm Jack Berry, and today I am with a fellow Michigan State alum, Harry Bowers, who is a notable golf architect in our state. Our state has a whole bunch of very famous and successful golf architects, and a number of them started out in the business, I think, at Michigan State. Is that right, Harry?
I think so. There seems to be quite a few.
When did you get out of state, and how did you get into designing golf courses?
I was 1983, and I had sent my resumes out like everybody else did to every golf course architect in the business. I did go through a dual bachelor degree program, so I did have a degree in turfgrass management as my backup. And Mr. Jones, Robert Trent Jones Sr., used to come out and give a talk to the two-year turfgrass students. Well, I was a four-year student, but Dr. Ken Payne was the head of the program for the two-year program, and he invited me to sit in because he knew what I wanted to do. And the second year, I kind of boldly went up and shook Mr. Jones's hand and slipped him a resume, and I doubled down by sending one to the office in Montclair, and I guess it was February. I hadn't even finished my last two courses in landscape architecture, and I got the call and went out to New Jersey and never looked back. I never did finish the last two classes. I've got my degree in turf, but not in landscape architecture.
So what was the first project that you worked on for Robert Trent Jones?
Roger Rulewick was our senior architect and really my mentor. And Roger was pretty territorial. So I started out in mostly renovation. But it's Robert Trent Jones Sr., so I got to work on Baltusrol and Aronimink and Malone Golf Club up in New York, and it was fun. I mean, I was a dream job, even though it was renovation. But the first job that I got as far as working on a new course was Treetops. But
then at Treetops, there's a brand new property up there.
Well, Roger kind of came to me and said, boy, this is some of the most fantastic topography I'd ever worked with. And he said, you're from that area, so you need to be involved in this project. So I was, of course, ecstatic. I mean, this is great. And by the way, I still to this day think that Roger Rulewick was probably one of the best I ever saw at routing a golf course, particularly if it had topography on it. He was an engineer from Yale by trade, and civil engineer, and boy, he could route a golf course. He was just a master at it. I still think that routing is fantastic.
Well, when you stand up there where Robert Trent Jones said, what do you want to name the course, was Treetops. That's all you can see from here. Now, how long did your job last up there at Treetops?
Well, I can remember, Roger and I started flagging trees in the winter. There was snow on the ground, and a lot of it, because once they started clearing, some of the bulldozer operators would say, how in the hell did you get those flags so high up in the trees? Well, we were standing on 3 feet of snow when we were marking them, and both Roger and I are both tall, so we'd always mark them high. But I remember we started flagging the trees, and in those days, that's what you did. One guy went down one side of the fairway, and the other guy went down. You had stakes where the center line. And you just kind of made your way through, and any good specimen trees you tried to work around, and sometimes you'd shift holes or green complexes to take advantage of better trees. But yeah, it probably took 2 weeks anyway.
And then what? When they start clearing, how long does that take?
I think it took us all summer to build that golf course. I remember, and like I was saying to Art, I've got a picture somewhere of me and Mr. Jones on one of the tees, and you can see where it was hydro-seeded and hydro-mulched. And I think, if I remember right, we did that hydro-mulching because we were a little late. So I'm going to guess late August, early September.
So that was a big show when Robert Trent Jones went up to northern Michigan for the grand opening.
Well, you were laughing about him calling the place Treetops. I was with him in the cart Harry Melling, and I think they had hired Rick Smith by then, and I think Rick was in the cart. And we got to that, what is it, fourth hole or sixth hole? Sixth hole, isn't it? Yeah. And Harry had asked Mr. about names, and they had a bunch of names. I mean, all kinds of names. And I'm just sitting and listening. I've got no input at all. When you were with Mr. Jones, he had the stage. And we were going on maybe like the fourth hole. We're in a cart, and I said, "So what are you thinking, Mr. Jones?" He said, "Well, I like to keep names simple. People like simple names. They need to roll off." And he said, "Everything they're putting out there is too complicated." And it was in the fall, so bam, we get to that par 3, and that's all you could see were the fall colors down there in that valley. And classic Jones, he just turned to Harry Melling and says, "I've got your name, Treetops." And that was, the rest is history, yeah.
Sensational. Now, people like, younger people these days don't know Robert Trent Jones from, Robert Smith or anything. But it's a shame. But that name lives on. I mean, what a great golf course name. Well, the resort was Sylvan Resort, and that was the ski resort.
Yes. And then it became Sylvan Resort, or Treetops at Sylvan Resort. Yeah, you're right. It was Sylvan Resort.
Now it's just Treetops. You can't come up with a better name.
Well, working for Mr. Jones was, just a dream. And I traveled all over the world with him the first 2 or 3 years. Sometimes I felt like the valet, but it didn't matter because he would tell stories, and I asked a lot of questions. Matter of fact, I remember one night he invited me over to the house, and he had a garage in Montclair. His garage was really an office for him, and it was a cluttered mess. I mean, there was stuff everywhere. And he called me over. He said, "Come here, I want to show you something." And he pulled out this book, and it had all of these writings, and it had sketches and everything else, and it was a copy of the original manuscript of Alistair Mackenzie's Spirit of St. Andrews. Wow. And he made a copy of it for me on an old Xerox copy machine. So, it was kind of shiny paper, but I still have it to this day. I don't have the pictures, and I know that manuscript ended up being written some years later, and nobody's been able to find the pictures. There's even been questions whether there were pictures. I saw some of the pictures, and Mr. Jones said it was Alistair Mackenzie's wife that did watercolors. Wow. So, but nobody's been able to find him. But I still have a copy of it.
Well, you're talking about Harry Melling. I remember, what is it, about the third hole that's on the Masterpiece course, where it's the fairway is, it's like that. It's like an upside down saucer. Balls go off into the woods. Well, Harry liked that. As a player, you don't like that. But Harry liked that, and he said, "Yeah, in the evenings, my wife and I, we'd go out and walk along the side and pick up all the balls, the shots that people had lost, rolled off the fairway." And
That's right. Harry Melling he was almost a kindred spirit with Roger Rulewick, because Roger really liked to leave the lay of the land. He didn't believe in contouring out the landing area, so they were receptive. And it actually drove Mr. Jones nuts sometimes, because he was like, "They have to have a place to land, Roger. You can't have everything crowned." But Harry liked it. You're right. And Harry wasn't a very accomplished golfer, but he did like that fact. And it fits with Treetops. I mean, the whole thing is just this beautiful rolling terrain. So it fit. I can remember, I think it's the 15th green. That's got a nice backdrop to it. You kind of look over a valley, and at one time we had mounds behind that green. We were roughed in some big mounds, and that's what Mr. Jones wanted. He kind of wanted more of a catcher's mitt. Then the next visit, because I stayed there for about 3 months at one time. The next visit, Roger came out. Well, what the heck are these mounds doing here? I want to be able to look, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm doing what Mr. Jones wants. You know, Roger, I know you're the senior guy, but I'm doing what, guess who comes out the next day? Harry Melling. Harry Melling's with Roger. And Harry Melling says, I think Roger's right. Let's get rid of those mounds. We're looking over these. So, you know, he was involved. He wasn't there often, but when he did come out, he was involved, and he had something to say, and by golly, you better listen.
Well, after the Jones course, when Rick talked them into hiring Tom Fazio to do that course, and then a Rick course besides, and Harry said he liked the Jones course better because it made he had to play better, made him play better, and he enjoyed that more.
I think I remember him saying that a few times, Jack. I really do. He like I said, he didn't come out that often, but when he came out on that golf course, and he took notes, and he would tell me, I'm thinking of this and that. You run it by Mr. Jones, but this is what I want. So it was a collaborative effort, and he was a great owner.
He was terrific. He went far too soon.
Yes, very unfortunate.
I think I'll ask Mr. Melling, what really made you feel that Mr. Jones was the person that you wanted up here at Sylvan Resort?
I think the key factor is he leaves the land basically the way it is, and the beauty up here, I could see it, but not as good as he could see it. I mean, I could go through the woods and see hills, but I couldn't see the hills and the valleys and I have seen a lot of the other architects, and he leaves things natural. And tell you what, when he started moving the trees out of the way, he saw it, and I didn't see it, and we couldn't have made it any better choice.